Not all questions are created equal, and treating behavioral questions like technical ones or vice versa is a fast track to confusion. So this lesson breaks down what each type of question is really testing and how to think like a person on the other side of the screen. Behavioral questions are designed to assess culture fit, values, your alignment to culture, and other soft skills. These questions aren't about your technical knowledge or experience. They're really about how you approach work, how you collaborate with others, and how you handle challenges at work. They often start with phrases like, tell me about a time when you did something. Describe a situation where you did something. Or give me an example of a time when you did something. So what the interviewer is really looking for is insight into how you manage conflict or adapt to a change or work within different teams. Behavioral type questions. They're asking these questions to determine how you fit within the company's culture and whether you embody the values that they truly prioritize. Here are some red flags in behavioral questions. When you provide vague answers, I want you to avoid answers that are too general or lack details. Number 2, lack of reflection. The interviewer wants to see that you've learned something from the experience. So don't just focus on what you did or even just the results that you got out of it. Also highlight what you do differently next time. Think about the now what of our framework. Third, overuse of I. Now, it is absolutely important to highlight your contributions. You must talk about what's your part, what's your role in what you've done. But for big tech companies, you also need to show collaboration, a balance of individual achievements and team-oriented results is the perfect spot. All right, let's move on to functional technical questions. Functional and technical questions are focused on assessing domain expertise, problem solving, and job, readiness. These questions are designed to test how you fit into the technical constraints of that company and how well you understand and can apply specific skills required for the role. They might include coding problems, case studies, situational judgment exercises, and so on. So for example, if you're applying for an engineering role, you may be asked to solve algorithm problems or design a system. For product roles, you may be asked to prioritize a feature and explain your rationale behind that or define a product roadmap. For business role in general, you could be asked to interpret data or work through an operational challenge. The key here is that problem-solving evaluators wants to know if you can think critically, handle ambiguity, and provide solutions under pressure. They are testing whether you can perform the job as much as they're testing your technical knowledge. I will share some red flag in functional technical questions. Number 1, inability to think out loud. If you can't articulate your thought process when solving a problem, it's a red flag. Recruiters want to hear how you approach the problem. And the second point is failure to acknowledge assumptions. Always clarify any assumptions before jumping into a solution. Ask questions. And then there is the problem of not testing your solution. In coding tasks especially, don't skip testing your solution on edge cases or unusual conditions. That's absolutely important. Try to make sure that your solutioning to technical questions is all encompassing. Now that you understand how to structure a great story, it's time to build a bank of them. Because in big tech interviews, one story isn't enough. You need to be ready to adapt on the fly. And the only way to do that is to prepare before you are in the room. At Amazon and many other big tech companies, interviews are mapped to specific leadership principles and competencies. That means each interviewer is listening for certain themes, such as ownership, bias for action, strategic thinking, customer obsession, and so on. So here's the strategy you can use. You should build a library of at least 28 stories. typically 2 for each core principles, because each of the Amazon principles translates to what other companies are also testing for. So why 2? Because in real interview, if they ask a follow-up question like, tell me another time when you demonstrated that, you want to be ready. You want to have a second story that hits just as hard as your first story. So you don't just need 28 unique situations. Some stories can be reused across principles by shifting the angle or perspective by which you tell the story. The real key here is framing the story to fit the question. Let me give you a quick example. Let's say you have a story about leading a high-stakes product launch. For ownership, you could highlight how you took an initiative when, others were hesitating. For customer obsession, you could emphasize how customer feedback shaped your roadmap. For deliver results, you could focus on what actually changed, what business outcomes you drove. The same story, but different angles depending on what principle you're going for. And all of that maximizes the impact of that single story. So I wanted to start documenting at least 28 stories now. This isn't busy work. It's your toolkit for showing up prepared, confident, and compelling. By understanding the why behind each type of the question that you're answering, whether it's behavioral or technical, you'll approach interviews with purpose instead of panic. And so in the next lesson, we'll focus on executive presence and authenticity, because that helps you to deliver stories with the calm, clarity and confidence that leaves a lasting impression. See you at the next lesson.